Now, going over to the cultural part of the podcast, you have Spotify banning Nick Fuentes after he soared to #1 in the charts. Now, this brought to us thanks to Remarks, #Remarks at X. They say, quote, Spotify bans Nick Fuentes' podcast after it hits #1 on the charts just days after allowing him onto the platform. And this went extremely viral. Got, 1.5 million views and 35,000 likes, which is quite a few to say at least. And yeah, he's one of the most controversial podcasters, I would say. Well, perhaps not of all time, but right up there with Alex Jones in terms of, many people have a positive and visceral reaction against him. And it is interesting and kind of ironic. This will just make him 10 times more popular. Because again, made famous thanks to Barbara Streisand with the phenomenon so interesting. They actually coined it after her, called the Streisand effect. Fun fact, back in the day, she was very irate that a reporter dared to take a picture of her fancy mansion on the beach. And she demanded the reporter delete that photo, get rid of the article. I never want people to know where I live. And because she made such a big deal about it, that is like half the reason people know her name, and they know where she lived, ironically enough, because she made such a stink about it. Now, Nick Fuentes is banned on pretty much every major podcast platform, especially the YouTube. Now, interestingly enough, and again, Nick Fuentes and Alex Jones got instantly banned on YouTube when they tried to get back on a couple weeks ago when YouTube claimed they were going to be pro free speech. I didn't believe them for New York minute. Wasn't surprised they immediately took them off the platform. But it is interesting on YouTube, they are allowing, I use this term very loosely, quote unquote, reaction videos of Nick Fuentes, where they're not really reacting at all. They just put up a clip of Nick Fuentes. They say nothing except they say, hey, here's a clip of Nick. And those channels are monetized. So interestingly enough, YouTube is allowing clips of Nick Fuentes, but not him alone to have his own channel, which is very unusual. Like, they did not allow that in the past. So people are ironically, he is not profiting off the YouTube, but his followers and a lot of people who like Nick Fuentes are posting about him on the YouTube. They're making a pretty penny. And it'll be interesting to see. Again, Rumble, again, there are a couple of platforms where he is on, very similar to Alex Jones. Alex Jones is not on the YouTube, but yeah, he soared past Joe Rogan in terms of popularity. It's exceptionally, phenomenally impressive. And the more they suppress him, the more popular he's become. And he is getting on major talk shows like PBD Podcast with Patrick Bet-David, who I would argue is mostly known for being a slimy insurance salesman or MLM or a multi-level marketing piece of crap. Again, some people love him because he's pretending to be, Republican for free speech, yada yada. And again, it's cool that he has a very diverse audience, politically and culturally speaking, on the PBT podcast. But it is interesting how a lot of people forget, how did he make his millions of dollars? But another topic for another time, perhaps. It is pretty weak from Spotify, or pathetic, or however you want to say it. Spotify really grew to prominence in terms of popularity because of Joe Rogan, and they stuck with him. And then slowly but surely, I would say their reputation started to be chiseled away as they started to censor or take down some of Joe Rogan's shows, starting to remove them from the catalog and the library. But for a while there, people really respected Spotify. I mean, I myself only downloaded Spotify, or Spotify as I like to hilariously call it, or at least I think it's kind of hilarious to call it that. I only downloaded Spotify because of Joe Rogan. I mean, that's the power of these creators on these platforms. Years ago, I only downloaded Rumble because of Steven Crowder. And that was why that's how I got introduced to the app. And it's a thing where it's really great advertising, gets people interested in the product. And with streaming being so competitive, I would argue being the only streaming service with Nick Fuentes is a very unique value add. That would make them put them on the map, so to say. And in this case, they apparently thought that'd be for worse, because again, there would be a lot of people calling on people to boycott Spotify because they were platforming Nick. A lot of advertisers probably didn't like that. So, kind of doing that analysis. Although, again, I would say if you're pro free speech, he should be allowed on the platform. Everyone should have that opportunity. And Spotify apparently said, well, probably more people than not are going to complain about Nick, so we're going to get rid of him. We're going to take him off the platform. Which, again, statistically speaking, he's, again, right there on the chart right there, he was one of the most viral. And his popularity is exponentially growing on a lot of these platforms. Even though, again, he himself might not have an actual page or a profile on these platforms. And again, this got really valuable. Got 1.5 million views, 35,000 likes. The first comment comes to us thanks to, well, not the most liked one, but the most handsome one out of debate. Me, the Topping Show. I say, quote, I thought Spotify believed in free speech and not censoring creators. I don't agree with Nick, but he deserves free speech like we all do, getting 3 likes. Yep. Freedom Cat, just cute cat with a American flag bandana and American flag in the background. And Freedom Cat says, quote, Spotify, bring him back, or are y'all about to be on the receiving end of a massive boycott, getting 62 likes. Unfiltered Man says, who's this? Derek Eek, who is, and I usually don't purposely try to mispronounce names to kind of natural. He is the founder, CEO, and founder of Spotify, and Unfiltered Man tagged him saying, quote, he banned him. I wonder if there's a soda bottle with the cap. I forget what we call the section of the cap of the bottle, which actually splits, but it's been split to look like hairs. Getting 2.1 thousand likes, and insinuating that he's Jewish. Francisco Bariki says, quote, doesn't this move from Spotify simply prove his point about who controls media? Getting 555 likes. Jake says, Spotify, and he has a screenshot saying, delete Spotify. Deleting this app will also delete this data, getting 51 likes. US is occupied, very specific profile name, as a picture of a Jewish man with a walkie-talkie, which looks like it's from the 90s. It has a thick walkie-talkie. It's a meme or meme. It says, shut it down. Arbo says, quote, banning bro only makes him more popular. LMFAO, getting 957 likes. Yep. Infinitely more. People will now seek him out. And again, his fans are so loyal. For years, they reached out to him on a platform no one even heard of. And I'm not trying to be talking down to that platform. I don't remember their name. I'm not trying to be a dick to that platform. It was an up-and-coming streaming platform, but it was a very niche platform that had him on for years. Yeah, they're gonna seek him out, and this will just make people even more intrigued because there's the allure of you can't have this. I mean, very similar. You saw this with Barack Obama. And when you go to any gun store, when Barack Obama was first in office, you'd see these bumper stickers and it would say, salesman of the year, and it has a picture of Barack Obama. And that was, well, if you get rid of the pandemic, historically speaking, one of the best sales for guns in decades was when Obama was in office, because again, as firearms are a political issue, usually Democrats try to usually Democrats try to take guns away and increase firearm regulations. Republicans, when they do something, very rare, usually fight for the Second Amendment. In theory, they sometimes do. It's very, very rare. But because, Obama, obviously Democrat is office, they thought there was going to be a lot more regulation, a lot more threats that are being taken away. The people bought them up left and right. There are gun stores that literally ran out of inventory. It's that good of a time to sell firearms. And I can't but think a lot of parallels, like right here, they're taking it off the shelf, making it harder to get absorb as materials. People are just going to want it that much more. You also have Faceless, and Faceless says, quote, hitting number one is exactly why they banned it. Platforms don't care about the edge causes with 100 listeners. They care when edge causes become mainstream and create advertiser risk, getting 2.7 likes. Magic Boy says, quote, told you there are groypers everywhere, even listening to Spotify. There's Nick Fuentes Nick Fuentes standing, or there's a cartoon of Nick Fuentes standing by a bunch of frogs, toads, getting 1.8 thousand likes. Stuff Jamie Fallon says, quote, Spotify, we love free speech. Also Spotify, Bans number one podcast. The pattern is so predictable at this point. In 244 likes. Basil O'Hiley says, quote, Nick might have been banned from Spotify, but he's less than 20,000 followers from having 1 million followers. Let's get him over the line on X. And his hashtag is literally Nick J. Fuentes, getting 205 likes. Going down more and more. This is from Minuteman. It's a Pokemon meme, but it's a outline of a Jewish person, getting 66 likes. The Silent simply has a picture of a juice box, getting 481 likes. Chris says, I wonder why. And it's a video compilation of Nick Nick saying the N-word, though with an A, I believe.
Some bitch nigga shit. Real niggas make good times. Good times create bitch niggas. Bitch niggas create bad times. Bad times create real niggas. And that was one of those instances where the bitch niggas were creating the bad times.
So that's a new take on an old ancient quote, where again the original quote is hard times make strong men, strong men make good times make weak men. You also have Lucy saying, quote, or I forget what movie this is or who this is. So the guy says he's based, getting 57 likes. Let's see here. Decoy says the top 4 podcasts being conservative tells you a lot about our country, getting 31 likes. Tristan, chief author, as a picture of a Jewish guy, says the Goyim no, shut it down, getting 612 likes. Nick says there's absolutely no way Amy Poehler is pulling in more than Rogan, getting 63 likes. Jordan Howard says, quote, remember when the leftists were screaming about free speech last week when Jimmy Kimmel got canceled? They're going to be just as mad about this, right? Or are they actually dishonest, unprincipled ghouls, getting 104 likes? B2 says censorship is only going to make him stronger. Thanks Spotify, getting 136 likes. Bobby Smith says Matthew 5:10, blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven, getting 106 likes. 1984 says even if you disagree with his opinions, free speech must never be oppressed, getting 102 likes. We also have Firesign says, quote, let's get him back on silently, no one will notice. Oh my god, he's #1, quick, ban him again. He must have gotten the call. Imagine what Nick could do if you're not debanked and able to use credit card processors and able to travel freely and still not deplatformed, getting 343 likes. Is any contrarians, anyone saying it's good that he's bad? Casey simply says, what a joke, they can't stop him, getting 74 likes. Anonymous says it's that's insane. They don't like seeing him having that much motion, getting 197 likes. Yeah, so there again, he's off the Spotify, and yeah, I doubt Spotify is going to change their mind. Very similar to YouTube, where again they said, "Wait, we're going to bring back free speech. We're going to bring back these former canceled creators who got taken off the platform for political opinions or medical opinions that didn't jive with mainstream media." And again, as soon as Nick Fuentes and Alex Jones went on the platform on the YouTube with their direct channels, they shut it down within like 12 hours. So again, I'm pretty pessimistic. I don't think he'll be back on the platform. I think this will only make it more popular, but let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, try to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so click that button. I greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, and comments. Great way to give me some additional feedback. Let me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone, everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.